Welcome back to another episode of Traveling with Crushworth. Lizzie and I are in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and we can't wait to show you as much as we can. But Lizzie, what do we have in store?
Well, I think we're just going to explore Calgary as much as we possibly can, and we are so excited to take you on the road with us.
All right, it's going to be fantastic, but come on, we'll have you tag along. See you later.
Bye.
Amongst Calgary's hustle, we're exploring intricate, connected legacies that propelled us from the heart of Inglewood's brew culture into Kensington Village and beyond. The city that gave us the Calgary Tower is joined by new landmarks, skyscraping murals, the tallest in the world among them. To know this land, its Indigenous people and their histories, Lizzie and I each have a foot in Calgary's past and present, in which all people can learn a better way through reconciliation. From wartime memorials to time-honored cemeteries, Calgary never forgets. Welcome to our two guests, Tarra Wright Many Chief and TV host and chef Paul Rogalski. His restaurant, the former home of A.E. Cross, tapped us into the story of a family man, his historic brewery, the recipes that started it all, and a cowboy legacy at the heart of Calgary.
Light connects with water at Mokinsis, Blackfoot for where the bow meets the elbow. The voice of Clarence Skip, Wolflake Jr., rises high at the confluence where Indigenous people have gathered since time immemorial.
We're here on the traditional territory of the Blackfoot people, which includes the Siksika Nation, the Piikani Nation, Kainai Nation, as well as the Amiskaapi Piikani Nation. And it's also within the territory of Treaty 7, which includes the Tsuut'ina Nation, as well as the Stoney Nakoda Nations of Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Wesley. And we're also within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We also want to acknowledge any other Indigenous and non-Indigenous people that are now living in this area.
Like all great neighbourhoods, Inglewood, Calgary's oldest, is a fire hose of history, literally. Today's Hose and Hound pub, our dinner stop, was the former fire station number 3 built in 1906. A staple for hearty meals and drinks, we like to think that Fire Chief Cappy James Smart would approve. In 1907, crews put out a kitchen fire on Christmas Day at the Cross residence, which didn't go without gratitude. Helen never forgot sending a cake to the station each year for 5 decades. Ready for a taste of Inglewood's dark side, we've joined up with Calgary Ghost Tours Joanna Lane in a community that, over its more than 145 years, has seen its fair share of the macabre. From residual phantom bells, murders and notorious haunts, sightings of these ghosts mean they're not quite done with the living.
A new day dawns with another adventure beginning on the city's C-Train light rail transit. This is Kensington, an eclectic culture hub bounded by neighbourhoods Sunnyside and Hillhurst. This former auto mechanic shop turned theatre in 1935 is the Plaza, lovingly restored for the next generation of film buffs. Kensington Pub, opened to hungry patrons in 1983, has two tales to tell, in that it's actually two buildings merged, a duplex and an Edwardian-style cottage, both built in 1911, 4 years after the annexation of Hillhurst. Now under one roof in what was the former alleyway, bullet holes from the past. It's Sunday, meaning the Hillhurst Sunnyside Community Association Flea Market is on. We've come for treasures, namely retro video games. Invigorated after our finds, we're zooming off to our brunch spot, Vendome Cafe, perfect after bargain hunting.
Really good. In today's era of truth and reconciliation, Tarra Wright Many Chiefs Tour teaches the rich traditions and culture of the Blackfoot, and sets new paths away from the devastating impact centuries of colonialism had, and continues to have on Canada's Indigenous people.
During that time that they were moving across the prairies, signing the number of treaties, they say that because even almost at the point of extinction, how aggressive we were in defending our territory, that the Dominion of Canada agreed to sign a treaty outside of a fort. And so it kind of gives you an idea of what our negotiating power was. And we were able to successfully negotiate the location. And so it's in an area known as Blackfoot Crossing. When we came together, they had the 3 Blackfoot tribes, which were in Canada, one is in the US, camped together in the Stoney and Sutina, and they actually negotiated with us all separately. But when we actually went into the negotiation, the chief negotiator didn't speak Blackfoot and wasn't really great at interpreting the treaty to us, and so we thought it was a peace treaty based on our stories, not a transfer of land ownership. And so if we think about the biggest component of it is there is no story or concept within the Blackfoot way of life that talks about the ownership of land. How could you possibly own the land? And so that was something that could have never been communicated to us. History in this area didn't start when settlement started, and that existed for thousands and thousands of years. And so if you imagine in that context of understanding our relationship to each other is through treaty, my hope is that people will start to kind of go beyond the tour and start to learn about this long history that we've had in the area and be able to celebrate it and be able to share it with other people in their own way. But if we come back to what reconciliation is, it's the rebuilding of bridges and the rebuilding of relationships. And so if we imagine that process of taking responsibility, of saying, I want to be able to engage with the community, is really everybody's responsibility. We know that it's not only on the Indigenous side to determine how to rebuild bridges, there really needs to be those two sides that come together. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about Indigenous communities. We know that there's been subjugation that has had such a detrimental effect on our communities, but you will always find that Indigenous people are so welcoming. They want to share, they want to welcome you to their community, and they want you to do it in a way where you get to engage. And so I think that's one of the interesting things that kind of separates being a part of reconciliation and actively being a part of it, of learning about the culture and engaging with the people, is it starts to move away from that static vision of Indigenous people are a part of the past and that we're not an active community. But we're an active community, and we want to share our culture, and we want to be able to start to rebuild those bridges with our non-Indigenous neighbors.
In 1875, the soon-to-be Fort Calgary was built at the Confluence under Commissioner James McLeod of the Northwest Mounted Police to end the illegal whiskey trade and protect the incoming railway. By 1877, Canada's federal presence here hastened tragic change. Under Treaty 7, Indigenous peoples, devastated by diseases, were cleared to reserve land. In Canada, numbered treaties accelerated systematic colonization and the traumas and abuses inflicted over a century of residential schools. Today in this Now Museum, there's a renewed commitment to Indigenous voices, education, and discussion to share human history now and for generations to come. Designated in 1929, the Inglewood Bird Sanctuary and Nature Center has, over its 90 years, recorded more than 270 species of birds. The legacy of Inglewood, the imposing home built by Northwest Mounted Police Officer Colonel James Walker in 1910, lives on in the community's name. The efforts of Walker's sons Selby and George Pickering led to the federal recognition, and later Ed Jeffries helped ensure this land was protected for future generations.
You found us with our friends Cody and Jeff at Reader Rock Garden. Created in 1913 by William Reader, Calgary's first superintendent of parks, Reader's wonderland of bridges, cobbled paths, and a testing ground for plants was also his beloved home. Today, it's a rebuilt garden cafe with a view, and the food and drinks are absolutely amazing. The former entrance tour to what was once an invite-only Eden was, yes, a rock for the garden.
We're on to Riley Park, the home of the Calgary and District Cricket League since 1908. Yet, we've come for a hidden history, a connection to famed cattleman and Big Four member Burns. Under our feet, the last vestiges of his sandstone mansion. 20,000 flagstone pieces moved here after demolition, its halls, carved gargoyles, and tower now lost to time. We're in Fish Creek Provincial Park, where an ancient hunting ground intersects three pioneer legacies that sculpted its centerpiece, the Bow Valley Ranch. Out of the ashes of Civil War, John Glenn arrived in 1873, the first European to farm in the valley. A veteran of the Union forces who deserted the Confederate draft, shaped a new city, erecting the stone fireplaces at Fort Calgary and advocating for Métis and settlers' rights. Adelaide Belcourt, Glenn's wife, was integral, literally, to the birth of Calgary. A sought-after midwife of Métis descent, she used knowledge from her Indigenous ancestors, for which she was named Grandmother of Midnapore. We're headed to Annie's Cafe, the old foreman's house and our lunch stop, dragged here by 16 teams of horses over 110 years ago. Today, the cafe, named for Billy Bannister's wife, is well loved by Calgarians and a summer ice cream favorite. Restored in 1999 to its Tudor-style splendor, stories are now being told through food in the Bow Valley Rouge Restaurant. In 1896, this home was commissioned by new owner, real estate entrepreneur, philanthropist, and meatpacking mogul William Roper Hall. 2 years later, and on brand for Hall's Ranch, where lavish parties were hosted on land enriched by irrigation, the Calgary Weekly Herald reported there being no more beautiful home than Mr. Hall's magnificent residence on the banks of the Bow. By 1902, the ranch changed hands, supporting owner Patrick Burns' vast cattle empire, a life almost synonymous with the rise of the beef industry. Upon his death in 1937, Pat Burns' wealth changed an economy. With Canada gripped by the Great Depression, the tax on Burns' estate is said to have offset Alberta's deficit, balanced the budget, and removed the provincial sales tax. For over 110 years, the Calgary Stampede has shaped this city. Its origin story, the meeting that sparked the legendary festival, is claimed to have occurred not only here at the ranch house, but where we're headed next as well. We're back in Inglewood at Rouge Restaurant in the historic A.E. Cross House, where fine dining connects with a modern farmhouse experience. For brewmaster Alfred Ernest, his wife Helen, and their children, this was Brewery House, built in 1891 and named for his business, the Calgary Brewing and Malting Company. One of the city's oldest wooden structures has stories within its walls, from beer putting Calgary on the map, pioneer days in pre-Inglewood brewery flats, and now, more than a century on, a unique connection to Les Stroud of Survivorman fame and foraged flavors. Chef Paul Rogalski spoke on the Cross legacy and his TV show Wild Harvest.
If the Cross family were able to dine here right now, I would definitely have the kitchen just cook for them. And there's a few reasons why. Number one, because we grow so much food in our garden that there would be this wonderful opportunity, depending on the time of year, to explore some flavors that maybe the Cross family didn't have back in the day or grow themselves. And the other thing too, which I would like to layer into dinner, would be some foraged flavors. So it would be telling the story of the geography and the locality of Calgary, but then dialing it into hyperlocal and what we grow out of the garden. I think that'd be fun. To be here for so many years, and in fact, we've been here well over a couple of decades. I feel honored, for starters, because this home has such a historical significance to Calgary. To me, it just feels like our time here has added to that storyline. To have a television series with Les Stroud, who a lot of people know as Survivorman, has really been an eye-opener for me. I'm so lucky that I've got a person like Les who is just so knowing of what's edible and plant species and where to harvest and when to harvest. He is my guide to wild ingredients.
In 1892, Cross and investor rancher friends like Roper Hall ushered in the Calgary Brewing and Malting Company, and not long after, the first Calgary export lager under the Buffalo Head logo. Over 129 years after its launch, I'm delving into the collector's world. From Spencer's centerpiece item, a framed lithograph, to brewing books signed by the brewer himself, what started as a basement bar renovation turned into an 8-year passion, spent collecting everything A.E. Cross in his brewery. It's a heady memory of a time when a city's residents were thirsty for change. In this room, physical reminders of Cross, who by his hands helped found the Stampede as a member of the Big Four and secured a family legacy of libations, father and son, before son, James Cross, sold in 1961. This is St. Mary's Cemetery, and I'm in one of the oldest parts, the Pioneer section. This place has tremendous power to it, and reflection is the word that comes to mind. And as you know, in this episode, we've been following pioneers, the likes of William Roper Hall, A.E. Cross, Senator Patrick Burns. I'm here to find the grave of John Glenn. So I'm a little lost. As you can see, I have a marker to go off of, and we'll see if I can find him. All right, catch you in a bit. In a city on the move, the Union Cemetery is a quiet place to reflect on past lives. From McLeod, a commissioner in the negotiations of Treaty 7, who saw the government's failed obligations towards the people of the plains, Roper Hall, whose charity lives on, and Alfred, Helen, and the Cross family, whose legacy of politics, conservation, and philanthropy continues today. For A.E. Cross, we're taking in Inglewood's modern brewing culture, of which he planted the seeds in the late 19th century. 100 years on, Cody and I are at Cold Garden to raise a glass in celebration of Cross, and a day later, I'm with Lizzie amongst the lights and glitz of arcade machines at Revival Brewcade. The places may change, but what doesn't is a cold drink among friends and loved ones. Thank you for watching this episode of Traveling with Crushworth. To return to Crow's Nest Past, click the link to the left. To follow us for our return to Shuswap Lake, click the link to the right. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell for all notifications. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.